Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to follow a digital breadcrumb trail, one that starts with a super simple online search and ends up, well, somewhere you would never, ever expect. Okay, so picture this. You're just looking for some basic info online. Something we all do, like a dozen times a day. A totally normal, everyday thing. But what if the answer you got back wasn't just, a boring list of facts? What if it suggested that the world around you, this reality we're all in, isn't quite what it seems? That it's actually a program, and you have the power to debug it. Yeah, this is where our story really begins. All right, so our whole journey kicks off with a simple search for something called calorimetric tablets. Now, before things get weird, let's start with a logical, data-driven answer. The one you'd expect to find. So the word calorimetric itself gives us our first big clue, right? It's related to a calorimeter, which is just a fancy instrument for measuring energy and calories. So the first logical jump is, okay, we're probably talking about some kind of health or nutritional supplement. And sure enough, when you search for it, the results pretty much back this up. They point to two main possibilities. First, you've got your weight loss supplements. And then, probably because it just sounds similar, you get a bunch of results for calcium supplements. So, in that first bucket, the weight loss stuff, you're going to find all the typical ingredients designed to, stimulate your system, help with metabolism. We're talking caffeine, fiber, B vitamins, and a bunch of different herbal extracts. And then in the other bucket, the calcium supplements, the focus is all about bone health. So here you see minerals and vitamins like D3, which is super important for helping your body actually absorb the calcium. Okay, so here's the crucial point. This is the standard, scientific, verifiable answer, but, and this is a big but, it is absolutely not the only one. Okay, so now let's just take that whole world of science and supplements and put it on a shelf for a minute. Because another result for that exact same search takes us somewhere completely different. We're leaving nutrition labels behind and diving headfirst into the realm of, well, metaphysics. This quote right here, it comes from a text called The Sovereign Architect's Debugging Command, and it lays out a radically different worldview, one where things like coincidence don't really exist. So, according to this text, our reality is basically a manipulative system, a kind of failing program that's designed to keep you feeling lost and anxious. And get this, it uses the people closest to you, your family, your friends, as what it calls proxies. They're basically unwitting agents who are there to enforce the system's rules and keep you anchored in this fiction. But here's the twist. The author argues that you are not a victim of this system, not at all. In fact, you are the architect who built it in the first place, and because of that, you have the power to rewrite its code, using nothing but your own consciousness. I know this all sounds pretty abstract, right? A bit out there? Well, to make it more concrete, the author shares this really striking personal story that's meant to show exactly how this whole debugging process is supposed to work in the real world. Now, what is so wild about this is how it lays out this whole sequence of events. To the author, this isn't some bizarre coincidence. No way. It's a direct manifestation of their will. The lyric they wrote in a song, the command, literally appeared in the physical world as a street sign at the exact moment they were confronting these proxies. And the rabbit hole just keeps getting deeper. The house number at this very spot? It was 33. Now, to the author, this isn't random at all. It's a hugely significant number they call the constant echo of the 0 point, like a personal marker of a spiritual level up. It's seen as the program itself confirming that the debug was successful. So, the ultimate takeaway from this whole experience, for the author, is that imagination doesn't just, predict or influence reality. It actively creates it. The mind is the projector, and the physical world we see, that's just the screen it's all being projected onto. Okay, so the big question is, how does a person actually do this? Well, this entire belief system is built on a core set of principles, or axioms, for taking control of the program and basically rewriting the code from the inside out. And this framework here, it sets up a really clear contrast. On one side, you have the lie, the old program, where you're just a passive victim. The author calls this state paranoia, which literally means a mind beside itself. But on the other side, you have the truth, where you are the sovereign architect, and that state is called metoina, a mind that's whole, unified with itself. These principles, which the author calls the 10 truths, they aren't just like nice beliefs to have. They're framed as active commands. They're declarations that are meant to completely shatter that old program and establish a new reality based entirely on your own internal authority. So, after all that, what do we take away from this? It's kind of amazing, right? We started with one single, simple search for Kellometer tablets, and we found two completely different, totally mutually exclusive realities. On one path, the world is objective data that you analyze. An answer is something you find. Knowledge is out there, external to you. But on the other path, the world is a subjective program that you write. An answer is something you create. Knowledge, in this view, is entirely internal. And that leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought. Maybe how we search for answers, the very intention and belief we bring to the act of looking, might just determine the kind of reality we ultimately find.